All right, guys, happy Wednesday and welcome back to the Nursing Investigation, episode 2. So before I get into why I chose Jersey College School of Nursing and what that experience was like for me, stepping into that school and starting the process, I just wanted to recap on my week and some things that I've been thinking about. First question I asked myself this week was, imagine the power you would have to possess to predict the future. Like, what kind of looking glass would you have to be able to predict not only your future, but somebody else's? In the world, sometimes awareness is a threat, right? Not so much somebody's actions, but your awareness to those actions. I'm the boss. I'm big, you're small. I'm right, you're wrong. And there's nothing you can do about it. And I think even from birth, we're trained to believe those that are bigger, that are of authority, because authority equals power. And that doesn't even include economics and the resources involved that give somebody infinite power. My experience with psychopaths, as you know, I thought was fitting because ever since that moment in my life, I always, from then till forevermore, I will probably always find the devil in the details. That is just how I am now. I do not take what's given to me at surface value. I need to understand why you made that decision, how you got to that decision, what, your intentions were. I want to know your family history. I want to know where you come from. I want to know who your friend is. I want to know who your boss is. I want to know how everything in life has influenced and impacted your decision making. I see a lot of people sometimes, and it kind of makes me sad. Like, ignorance can be bliss because you can live life in an easier way, not understanding what's really happening and just taking things at face value. But on the other hand, do you ever really grow when you do that? Do you ever really learn? Can you ever make an impact on the world when you don't question anything and you just believe the first thing you see and forget the last thing you hear? This is my experience on how the school presented itself. So I'm going to take you back in time, like a blast from the past, and kind of put you in my shoes of what I went through, what I felt. Everything I knew then that I didn't know now didn't exist yet. My thought process is, okay, what comes after medical assisting? Getting your license to be a nurse. And then what comes after that? You can bridge and work up the ladder, but at this point, you can at least be in the field, making better money, get that experience, and there's continue to climb the ladder. You could go to more night classes. You could do your clinicals on weekends. You could do classes online. So that was my thought process. And then I find Jersey College of Nursing because when I looked at community colleges, they all required prerequisites. When I looked at other universities similar to Jersey College of Nursing or big nursing schools, they weren't in the closest radius. So it narrowed down to who was closest to me, who was offering an accelerated program, who didn't require prerequisites, who allowed for night classes. And that's how I came across Jersey College School of Nursing. It felt like at the moment my prayers were answered. I was like, I can work all day and go to night classes, like that's a thing, and it's accelerated. Yeah, that's going to be harder, but I basically have some knowledge already, so I should be fine. At this time, I do have some help from my family with my daughter, so it should work out. I know they say you're not supposed to work in nursing school, but that's not feasible for everybody. I had to work full-time, overtime, come home to my child, be a single mom. It was long days, but I was like, the time's gonna pass anyway. So you might as well just do something and work hard while you're young, because the older you get, I feel like the harder life gets. So I was closest to the Jersey College School of Nursing in Ewing, New Jersey. And when I walked up to it, I was just like, I just had this immense feeling of gratification in the sense like, oh my God, I'm actually going to be something. I'm going to be the first one in my family to graduate college. I'm just going to make something of myself. Even if I don't become a nurse practitioner one day or have my doctorate in nursing, like that's a step in the right direction for my children and theirs and so on to live better lives and give them opportunities. I felt from my perspective, they positioned themselves to be very career focused. So as you would go through the education, it was relayed to me that, oh, we have job fairs, we have resources, we have connections, we'll help you get a job. I'm like, wait a second. I have all these other perks, and then also you're not gonna let me run out of here and throw me to the wolves and try to find a job. Like, you can help me in ways to facilitate that. I'm like, awesome. It seemed very structured, being that the schedule worked with my working hours. It was feasible to somebody like me who had a tougher of a life, who didn't have, parents supporting their education through school where your only focus was school. It felt supportive in coming in. It felt like any possibility I gave them to where I thought this couldn't work for me, it was immediately corrected. Like, this is how we can help you. This is what we can do for you. What's the next problem? I can help you solve that. Even when it came down to like financial aid and grants, no matter what, the financial aid lady at the time, she was impeccable. Sweetest lady, so kind, so educating. And that also helped seal the deal that I had somebody help me walk through that process, because it can be complicated, especially when your life is complicated and your parents don't have all the answers and nobody's around to get these answers. So also they were accredited. That's also important, because if you go to a nursing school that's not accredited, your credits are no good. I was leaving high school with a 2.3 GPA. I was like, hey, you're gonna accept me into this school with a 2.3 GPA, no prereqs. So I was so stoked about that. This is going to be a turning point in my life. Too bad I didn't know what I knew today. I could not find anything wrong with the school itself. Now, mind you, this is a few years ago, so social media wasn't really developed yet. People speaking about their experience wasn't really developed yet. I believe like we were still in the YouTube days. Like everybody cared about YouTube and was just getting off of MySpace and getting onto Facebook. Like it wasn't social media, the internet, things like that aren't as evolved as they are now. So I was only going off of the information that I had at the time. So please keep that in mind. So it felt responsible at the time because I had nothing to worry about. All I had to do was pass my courses. All I had to do was complete everything the board wanted me to complete. The required courses, practicals, clinicals, and put my hours in, and I'm gonna be out of here in no time. I'm going to be a licensed nurse. Why wouldn't they keep their end of the bargain, right? Me being around 20 years old, never signed a contract in my life, never went to college. Like, I literally believed everything I was told because I had no other life experience as far as consumer to commercial business, if you will. Like, I didn't know what I know now as far as how things aren't always what they seem. Practical decision, it was an intentional decision. It was not a reckless decision to enroll. I made sure all the boxes were checked. I received an email from the school because I went online, I did the inquiry like, hey, I'm interested, send me some details. So I got one of those, probably, allegedly, I don't know, an automated message maybe, something like that, but reaching out to me saying, okay, here's some info, give us a call if you're interested type thing, or here are the next steps if you want to come to the school. So I'm reading, I have a pamphlet, I have a PDF. I'm like, okay, so these are the requirements. This is my responsibility. I have to, for example, take maternity. I have to take mental health. I have to take fundamentals of nursing. I have to go to clinicals. I'll have to basically, for those of you who don't know what clinicals are, you basically volunteer or like shadow working nurses. You'll learn how to do your hands-on stuff a lot by those clinicals. Going to like a nursing home or a psych ward or a hospital, and you'll get your hands-on training. I know you have to take fundamentals. I know you have to take med surg. I already had healthcare experience, so I'm like, none of these terms are like brand new to me. It's not shying me away. Kind of been here, done that in a sense. So I'm like, I can do this. I can pass these courses. I don't have an option not to pass. Even if I barely pass it, I'm passing these courses. For anybody that's gone to school, for anybody that's done business with a business of any kind, really, after you're approved, you will be required to go through some hoops and loops to make sure you check out as a person and they want you to come in the school. It's not enough to say, hey, I want to go to school. Like some schools require those prereqs. Other schools, mostly all schools, especially in the medical field, you'll have to do a background check. I have to do an entrance exam. I have to go to get a physical. I have to go get vaccines. I have to pay a down payment. I have to get, I believe they were white shoes. I had to pay, I believe the uniforms, books, things like that were included with the tuition, but I believe I needed to buy my own pair of shoes. I also needed to adjust my working hours so I could go there either during the day or at night and work on the opposite times. I had to arrange childcare, never saw my daughter. So this brings me back to, once all of that is said and done, then you get into your contracts. Once you sign the contract, that's it. Unless you fail out of a course, then you're not on the hook for paying everything you would have had you have gotten to the end, for an example. And we will get into the law and logistics, how case law works, everything of that nature in another video. It's too much to cover, but the contract is important. That's where things start to get sloppy from my perception. Because when I'm in an admissions office and somebody is explaining to me what I'm signing, and to me and what I know now does not equal what I signed, that's a problem to me. So when you guys hear my general experience of, hey, I completed nursing school, my transcript, everything is good to go, it's complete as is, but my graduation date was withdrawn because I didn't pass these exit exams. It's not just about the exit exam. It starts from the beginning. How did I even get into this position? And that's where the contract comes into play. Everybody signs a contract, but the way your experience is when signing that contract, how it's relayed to you, if you had the ability to have a lawyer look at it, did you have to sign it in a rush? Were you given time to look at it? How far away was your contract signing from your start date? Things like that matter, and what I want to examine in this whole process. So it doesn't come down to just an exit exam. It comes down to also how this all started and how we got here. The policies that only mattered after completion, why this distinction matters. Next video, I want to talk about the admissions process. What was it like sitting in that room, going back and forth with the admissions representative? What was my experience signing a contract for the first time? What did I know to be true? What was I agreeing to? What was I signing to? And how did I put my college transcript on the line because that's a part of the record that you're not seeing. I can make a YouTube video on my tiny little YouTube channel. I don't need a PR team to double check and triple check my work. I don't need this to be checked to see if it's digestible for the public and see how it's going to frame me, because like Judge Judy always says, the truth doesn't need a good memory. If you lie, you need to have a good memory. That's just what it is. Like, this is my experience. Now, for my negative Nancy's, I will answer some of your comments. So, other schools have exit exams too. Like, why is your experience different? You're right. Many schools offer programs that use exit exams. The difference isn't the existence of exit exams, but how they're implemented, what it replaced, and how it affected my eligibility after I'd already completed, after I already completed my coursework and clinical requirements. How they were applied is exactly what I'm examining. You know, I know some schools, like, you have to take ATI or you take HESI. Like, you know good and well which one you're taking before you walk in that room. You're given a study guide. They literally rigorously prep you because they want you to pass. And we'll get into exit exams in another episode, but there's a lot of variables that I experienced that other girls who have taken exits didn't. So again, we are examining how it was applied, how it was used. Mind you, when you're given an exam like that, like the NCLEX, it should be equal to each party taking it. When I could receive an exam that's much harder than somebody else, that's a problem for me. When I receive a different test than somebody else, that's a problem to me. I'm not attacking the use of exit exams. They should be used as an educational tool. Why not? Yeah, great. It's helpful. Like, anybody in nursing school knows, questions are key when preparing to take your NCLEX. You have to train your mind how to answer those questions that prioritizes getting the right answer, but also think about safety. What is the best answer if two answers are true? Like, you have to get in that mindset of how to answer those questions. I totally support the use of it, but I'm talking about the application of them and the impact. Rules are rules. Why shouldn't they apply to you? Rules should apply, but the rules should be applied consistently, transparently, even in good faith. My concern isn't that rules exist. That's great that rules exist, because that should make the experience for everybody pretty equal and pretty consistent and fair. It's how they were enforced after students may invest so many years and so much money, so much time, and completed courses and clinicals and practicums and all the things just to, in a way, put it on the line and sacrifice it for something that wasn't beneficial to themselves. Like, why would I go through all of this work and effort to invest in you and I leave with nothing? That's my experience. Because what good is my transcript if I can't utilize it in the world and sit for my boards? You know, like, what am I going to do with it? That's not what I went to school for. I went to school to get my license. I didn't go to school to continue to stay a medical assistant and just apply a little more knowledge. Like, that's... The issue is the process, all right? It's not entitlement. It's stemming from process inaccuracies, inconsistencies. If it's in the contract, that makes it legal. This is why I'm gonna do a whole separate video on the legal system, because honestly, if you don't know how the legal system works, that's so good because you've never had to experience it, and that's great. A contract, for example, doesn't automatically make the term fair. That's why there's laws. That's why there's courts. That's why we have juries. That's why we have judges. That's why we have case law. That's why we have so many things, because in cases when it's not fair, it needs to be evaluated. A precedent needs to be set, you know? So contracts and people of authority don't automatically mean they're right, doesn't automatically mean they have your best interest, doesn't mean it's enforceable even, doesn't mean it's ethical, especially if the material terms change, especially if, you know, one end of the bargain wasn't fulfilled, or, you know, instances weren't disclosed or applied in ways that were fair across the board to all students. It wasn't equal, or in a way that a student could reasonably participate in that contract. That's not my opinion, by the way. That's just contract law. That's the basics. This is legal principle, by the way. I'm not accusing. This is what's in contract law. Oh no, the school sent a defamation letter. Doesn't that mean they're right? Like, why would somebody do that to this student, you know? Like, a school must really feel like they did something to warrant this cease and desist letter. I could send anybody I want a cease and desist. So can you. I can send anybody a legal letter for a lot of reasons. A legal letter, whether it's written by yourself, whether it's written by an attorney, that's not a ruling. Do you know the difference? Like, a ruling is a judge or a jury has said, you know, this person is being charged and convicted. This person did X, Y, Z. This is what it is. This is the ruling. This is how it ends. A legal letter opening that conversation doesn't make that person right or wrong. It's to be determined. It's like when you're having a dialogue with anybody about anything. Like, let's say, I don't want to use politics. I'm not going there. But let's say you think the color green is better and I think the color yellow is better. Does that mean you're right or I'm right, or you're wrong, I'm wrong? We don't know yet. The letter doesn't mean that they're wrong or they're right. It's just a letter from their stance. It's just signaling, hey, this is our position. So a letter is not a legal ruling, okay? It's not a judgment. It's not a finding of fact. The letter itself cannot enforce anything. It's just a position. It's just a stance on something. This is my point of view. This is how I see it. Just because somebody has power, resources, authority, economics, doesn't make somebody automatically right. I'm sharing my documented experience, and I'm speaking carefully about it. Those two things can coexist at the same time. And if you don't know law, that won't make sense to you. And I don't expect it to. I fully prepared for this. And honestly, guys, even though you're my negative Nancys, I really appreciate your opinions and your point of view, because I need to be prepared for everything and anything. And if somebody hasn't asked me a question that I haven't been asked yet, it does no service to me. So I appreciate the respectful conversations we have and going back and forth and saying, hey, I see it like this, or what about this, or I see it like this, I think about it like this. Like, I want to know everything. How is exit exams different from the NCLEX? I mean, they're both broad. You're not going to know which questions are on either, right? Okay, so some people have believed in the common misconceptions that an exit exam is equal to NCLEX. And if that were to be true, the exit exam would be NCLEX. But it's not. To be fair, again, if this isn't something you've researched or you're privy on, this would seem like a logical surface response. Because both are hard to study for, then they're functionally the same, right? I don't think difficulty is the distinction. I think the authority is. Because if the NCLEX determines licensure, exit exams predict readiness, or are used, or should be used however the school decides. Fine, whatever. I'm like, we'll get there. Take a breath. Stay patient. Don't go down the rabbit hole. We'll get there. Just end it there. I'm just so passionate. I know so much. I just want to word vomit. The NCLEX the NCLEX is broad. That's fair. The NCLEX is broad too. But it's also governed by the Board of Nursing. Therefore, it's equal to each test taker. When you talk about exit exams, there are so many venues, there are so many vendors, maybe the better word, that put out these exams. That doesn't make it equal to everybody. They could also have questions in there that are outside of your scope. So like somebody sitting for NCLEX PN isn't going to get questions from NCLEX RN. That's also a problem. These exit exams aren't regulated by a governing body, except you could say the school itself or the vendor in which creating the tests. I've also read, which we'll get into another time, but for example, one of the makers specifically says that their exams should not be used as a gatekeeper, more or less, from keeping nurses from getting their license. It's supposed to be used as an educational tool. So that matters. The NCLEX is used to get your license. The exit exam isn't meant to be used to replace the NCLEX. A small similarity in study experience does not create equivalence in like legal function. I'm going to answer the most asked question from my negative Nancy's because I know you all want to know. For those of you who have never been in a lawsuit, who have never sued somebody, who've never been sued, who's never been in court, who's never had a lawyer, it can be overwhelming. And if you don't know how the system works, then yeah, on the surface level, that would make sense. Why would a school sue a student? Why would an institution, why would a big corporation sue a nobody, if you will? I think that's a fair question. On the surface level, it sounds logical for somebody who doesn't understand how law works. But it assumes that lawsuits only happen when somebody's done something wrong, and that's not how institutional risk works. Large institutions don't respond to every negative review. They respond when they believe a narrative could gain traction or be documented, challenging their version of events. This doesn't mean that they're wrong. This doesn't mean that the other person is wrong. It means the institution is, this doesn't mean the person that's being sued is wrong. It means the institution is protecting itself. That's its job, just like a mother's job is to protect their baby. Even when your baby is wrong, right? Maybe your baby, hits a dog and the dog tries to attack. You're going to attack the dog. Although your child was in the wrong, that's your child. That's my job, to protect my child, right or wrong. That's kind of, in my mind, how institution works. But honestly, that's not accusatory. That's reality. That's show business. Now, I want to address the part where people say, like, why you then? People get bad Google reviews all the time. People get bad phone calls all the time. They get unhappy customers all the time. Like, what makes you different? Like, I agree with you. I actually agree with you, Nancy. I do. And I like the way you think. But in all seriousness, if this were about punishment or wrongdoing, there would already be a finding or a judgment or a ruling. What exists instead right now is not a decision, and that's important. And also keep in mind, I knew what you were going to see online. You were not going to see the full picture. Most people aren't going to see the full picture. Just because there's public record doesn't mean it's easy to find. Just because you Google search, Clarissa Price, and the first thing that comes up is a paid website, typically giving you a debrief on the first couple pages or the first motion, the first thing that happened, but it doesn't show you the full picture. It doesn't show you everything else. You're right. Schools, they receive negative reviews every day. Most of these are emotional. They're brief. They're undocumented. Sometimes you don't know who the person is. But what makes my situation different isn't volume. It's detail. It's documentation. It's persistence. It's my reality. When you imply accusation without seeing a ruling, a judgment, a finding, without seeing the opposing counsel's position, it's an assumption that places burden on the individual to prove their innocence before any finding has been made. So it's like, I'm not asking anybody to take my word. I understand the court system is confusing and how much I need to do to explain all of this. It's a lot of work, guys. Please give me some grace, because not only do I have to explain my experience, but I'm also currently, going through the legal system. I am facing an institution. I'm very humble, so I call myself nobody. Look at, I have nothing in my home. And I'm still a mom of 2. I still go to work. I still have to work on my business. I still have to try and take care of myself. I'm going through a lot, and I am trying. I have always tried. All right, so give me some grace, because you don't know what kind of stress it is to be under to go through something like this. That's it. I'm not telling you what to think or who to believe, or it doesn't matter to me. However it unfolds, if I'm sitting for my NCLEX and our nursing investigation stops, that's a good thing, right? Because we have another nurse in the world. We need good nurses in the world, not just licensed nurses. We need good nurses. And that's more than just a piece of paper. If I don't end up sitting for my NCLEX and I have to keep going, something good has to come out of this. There has to be goodness to come out of this. Whether that be this turns into helping other people in what ways, I don't know, or it just comes down to sitting for my NCLEX. I don't know, but there has to be goodness that comes out of this. So I will see you guys next Wednesday for episode 3. We are going to talk about the admission process, where things start to get interesting. Really appreciate all of the support, all of the messages. I really have to try to go through them more, but it's been so heartwarming. And I really appreciate the time and energy you've put into this and reaching out to me and commenting, engaging, just listening to my story or telling me things I don't know. Whether it's about the law, your experience, what you know to be true about the board or NCLEX, like, thank you. Thank you for being here.